Hey, what's up? It's the Kind Assassin. Welcome back to my series on the Acolyte. Today I'm going to be talking about episode 5, Night. So we have another short episode, but a lot happens and we have a grand reveal. We pick up where we left off. Osha is regaining consciousness after she was force pushed by the Master. And as she's regaining consciousness, we hear some lightsabers in the distance. And then she stumbles upon a dead Jedi. So we know the fighting's pretty bad. RIP to the unknown Jedi, by the way. So as we pan to the forest, we see the lightsaber battle between the Jedis and the Master. And there's really cool fight scenes here. But honestly, the Jedi are no match for the Master. He's just killing them left and right. There's some pretty sick kill scenes, which are fun to watch. And just seeing his skills and his power was really fun to watch. And RIP to all the Jedis that died. So as Osha is watching all of this go down, we see that the Master is about to kill Yord, but Osha shoots the Master with the electric gun, but we see the electricity just go through him and it didn't affect him at all. But it did buy enough time for Yord to be saved, and he tells Osha to run, get out of there. So she does, she takes off. While all of this is happening, we see May watching this through the window from Kelnaka's house. She picks up his lightsaber. And in this moment, I'm thinking, oh, okay, she's going to go help, right? Because it seemed like she had a change of heart in the last episode where she told Kimir that she's actually not going to kill Kelnaka. She's going to turn herself in and she's going to tell them all about the Master. So I thought, okay, maybe she's switching sides. And when she picked up the lightsaber, I thought she was just going to go help. But turns out she just booked it. So I was like, oh, dang, she's still self-serving, self-interested. And she just escaped, right, to save her own ass. So then in the meanwhile, the Master catches up to Osha. And just as he's about to kill her, Soul pops out and, prevents the lightsaber from, hitting Osha. The Master had thrown it across the way and it cut down all the trees, but Soul saved Osha just in time. And this is the beginning of the showdown between Soul and the Master. Soul tells Osha to leave, no civilians.
Civilian to the ship.
And her and Yord take off towards the ship. So during this initial first showdown between Soul and the Master, Soul obviously wants to find out who this guy is, what's his deal, what does he want? And the Master says, don't you remember me?
Who are you?
You don't remember me.
And Soul says something like, there's some familiarity.
I sense something familiar.
So when I first heard that, I thought, oh, was this Master a youngling? Like, was he actually trained by the Jedi? And maybe he knows Soul from there? Or is there some kind of connection between them two, like in his backstory? So obviously, we didn't find out in this scene, but that's my initial reaction when I saw that he said, don't you remember me? So they're about to battle it out. And then meanwhile, May is still trying to escape. And we see Jackie show up. So she's the Padawan. And she tries to stop May. So at this point, I'm thinking, Jackie, you're no match for May. I mean, May took down Indara and she was a Jedi Master. And we've seen how powerful and skilled May is. So I really didn't think Jackie had a shot. But she really surprised me because she held her own and she really was giving it to May. She put the handcuffs on her and she's like, you're under arrest, girl. Like, stop, I got you. So the Master leaves Soul behind. He disappears from that battle scene to come to where May is. And Jackie is there to battle him, right? I thought, okay, maybe she was able to beat May, but there's no way she's going to be able to beat the Master because look at the way he took out all of those Jedi. But she surprised me again and she held down her own and she even busted out a second lightsaber like Ahsoka style and was really battling him. But then the Master just kind of pieced out and was chasing May again. So while this was all happening, we go back to Osha and Jord as they're trying to get to the ship. And Jord is explaining how the master didn't really have any patterns in his fighting. It was really hard to understand like how to defend himself or attack. And also he said that he has a way of getting in your mind and kind of staying there.
He doesn't follow the rules of combat, and there's no method to his movements. It doesn't make sense. He gets into your head and he stays there.
And Osha mentioned that she's seen that before. She saw her mom do it.
My mother could do that. Get inside a Jedi's head.
And I believe she was referring to when the mom went into Torben's mind and was controlling him. So that just made me wonder if the master is connected to the witches in some way. Like, was he trained in the same way they were trained? Did they train him? Is he connected to that home planet? And that's how he knows about May. So just curious if we're going to find out more about his backstory at this point in this episode, or we're going to find out more about it, or later on down the road. So as the master is chasing May, there's a really cool shot of his helmet in the frame, and it's kind of still and like moving forward, and all of the force is kind of going back. It just looked very menacing, and just, cool cinematography in that scene. And he finally catches up with May, and at this point she's saying she's sorry. She had a moment of weakness.
Forgive me, Master. I was weak.
So there's more fighting between Jackie and Soul and the master while May is there on the floor, and Jackie's holding her own. Again, she's really battling with the master. She manages to break off his helmet, but unfortunately in that moment the master does kill Jackie, and it's really sad because she is young and she seemed really committed to the ways of the Jedi and seemed just really committed to it all, but she ended up dying. So R.I.P. Jackie. And this is where we see the grand reveal. And come to find out, it's Kimir the whole time. So I think most people guessed that it was probably Kimir. There was some signs like he knew a lot about the master's kind of philosophy and his motivations. He was explaining that all in that bar place where he was making the poison for May. And he also knew exactly where Kolnaka was. And he was also kind of pestering May as they were walking to Kolnaka's house, like, how are you going to kill without a weapon, right? He kept kind of like pushing her to give him an answer because it seemed like that's what he really wanted to find out. And it just was suspicious, like, why would he care so much if he's just like a follower or helper of the cause? But anyway, so Kimir is the master. I think it's kind of funny because right when we saw that reveal, he said, "You didn't think it was me, like deep down inside."
You really didn't know it was me. Not even deep down.
And I think maybe that was a line written for the audience to kind of joke like, hey, you probably did guess that it was Kimir this whole time. We like deep down inside we knew. So I thought that was like a little funny way to break the fourth wall. So during the scene, we see the master / Kimir use his force, and he's really powerful, right? We see that again. And he like force grabs May and like chokes her. And while May was actually on the floor before Kimir or the master grabbed her, she as like force talked or communicated with Osha. So as Osha and Jord were running towards the ship, she heard May, and she's like, wait, Jord, we have to go back. We have to go help them. He's going to kill them. And Jord's hesitant, but eventually he gives in. He's like, okay, let's go. They finally get to the place where everyone is, and Jord kind of gets a drop on the master, and they're battling, but again, he's no match for the master, and he gets killed pretty nastily, and he gets his neck like broke, and it's pretty gnarly, but rip Jord. So the next scene, once Jackie's dead and Jord's dead, and it looks like Soul is gonna kill everybody and kind of escape, Osha takes Pip, actually, and lights him up and sticks him on Khmer's back. And then that attracts all of the bugs, and they take him, they fly and grab him, take him away. And at that moment, I was like, this better not be the way he dies, because that would be a stupid death. But, that's how the scene was left, right? He got taken away by the bugs. And then as that happens, May shoots Soul with the electric gun, and he does get affected by that electricity, right? He passes out. So it's like, why did he get affected but not the Master? Just thought that was interesting. Like, what is it about the Master that, he wasn't affected by the same weapon, right, as the Jedi? At this point in time, we get a reunion of the sisters, and they're still holding on to their truth, right? Each of them has their truth about what happened on the home planet, kind of how their lives played out. And they're not really willing to hear the other. They think the other one is wrong and has made the wrong decision. Osha is blaming May for setting the fire and killing everybody.
You're the violent one. You started that fire.
And May is telling Osha that you've been brainwashed.
They've brainwashed you. They've turned you against me.
And Osha's like, no, the Jedi saved my life. And May's like, well, no, you should be choosing family. You should choose me. So they just kind of go back and forth. And it's just reminiscent of the conflict that seems like they always had when they were children. Even though they're twins and sisters and have that connection, they still never really saw eye to eye. And there was always kind of a chasm between them. And even though they're hugging in the scene at the end of their argument and there's tears in their eyes, so there is some emotion, but it just is very evident that there's always going to be a separation between them. Because in that moment, Osha takes down May and she's like, you're under arrest, you're a criminal, I need to take you in. And May's like, nope. She takes her down. It's like, no, I'm going to leave, right? Like, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to go escape. So she actually ends up switching places with Osha, right? She cuts her hair, takes her clothes, and she leaves. So May, dressed as Osha, finds Soul, and they go to the ship. Interesting that Soul didn't really sense that it was May, not Osha. Maybe he's just like traumatized by everything that happened, right? All the Jedi are dead. Jackie died. Yor died. There's this guy who knows what he wants and what he's going to do. So maybe he's just like distraught and didn't really sense that it was May. But someone did sense that there was something wrong, and that was Basil. So Basil's still around. He's scampering through the forest, and he comes across Pip. So I thought Pip was dead after, the bugs took Khmer. But, he survives somewhat, right? He's on the floor. Basil picks him up. And then he goes to the ship where Osha, who's really May, is with Soul. And he sniffs around and he's like, something's fishy here. So I think Basil definitely knows that it's not really Osha. And then the Master, we see him come back, thankfully. He's not dead. He's, walking, and he picks up his cape and his helmet, I think, and he goes to where May is, who's really Osha. Now, this scene, I feel like I was a little confused because he said something to her.
Even in the revelation of our triumph, you see the depth of our despair.
But I don't know what he really meant by it. So if you know what he was trying to say, then please let me know in the comments, because I was kind of confused by this last scene. So that was it. It was a quick episode, but lots of things really did happen. Lots of deaths, lots of cool fighting scenes, a grand reveal, but still more mysteries and more questions came out of this, I think. All right, so just some final thoughts. I think the Master / Khmer is a really, really interesting character. Just some of the things he said about Soul, about the Jedi. He even told Osha a couple times, how can you trust him? And also how he is talking to Soul about his fighting style and there's one point where they're kind of battling it out without weapons. They're like just punching and hitting each other. He does overpower the master, and it looks like he's about to kill him, but, Osha stops him in time. I think at this point, the master's like, you're not supposed to attack someone who doesn't have a weapon, or you're not supposed to attack when, the enemy's back is turned towards you. And he just seems to be well versed in all of the Jedi rules, which is interesting to me. Like, how does he know about that so much? Like, was he trained again as a youngling? Was he trained at all? And he also says that he has no name, that some might call him Sith. So
I have no name, but a Jedi like you might call me Sith.
we know now that he is connected to the Sith in some way, although he didn't call himself Sith, and maybe he doesn't want to be part of that organization or the order. He finally revealed that his motivation is he wants freedom. He wants freedom to use the Force in any way he likes. So if he wants that freedom, then why would he be part of the Sith Order? Because they definitely have rules too. And, he said he just wants a pupil. He wants an acolyte. So I think he just wants to train someone under him to continue this idea of using the Force and being free, and all of these rules that these organizations have, they're just false rules. Like, why be constrained by them?
What do you want?
Freedom. The freedom to wield my power the way I like, without having to answer to Jedi like you.
We got a little bit about his motivations, but just really interested to learn more about his backstory, where he's actually from. Is he connected to the witches at all? Speaking of that, he knows a lot about what happened on the home planet, because he does say to Soul at one point, at least I've accepted my darkness. What have you done with yours, right? And he told Osha, like, how can you trust him after everything is done to you? So it seems like he knows what happened, but how does he know? Like, was he there? Again, was he part of the witches at some point? So anyway, it would be interesting. Like, I can't wait to find out, what all of that means. So also, like I said, I thought that maybe the master knew Soul from before, like maybe when he was young, but it seems like maybe he just was saying, like, you should know me because we've met. And I think it was when they were interrogating him on that planet to try to find May. And even Yord was like, it's you. And I think he finally connected the dots, like, oh, that was the guy from when we were interrogating. So maybe there isn't a connection like further back between Soul and the master. We'll see. I don't know if I've ever seen this before in other like shows or movies, but there was a couple times when the lightsabers were disarmed, or like they broke when it hit the master's armor. So just curious, like why did that happen? Was there something special about his armor that is new, or they never talked about, but now they're bringing it into the universe? So if you know, let me know in the comments. I really like all the duality in the show. We see at the end of this episode, Osha leaving with Soul, similar to, even though it's not Osha, it's May, but it's similar to when she left the home planet with Soul and when Sister got left behind. So kind of duality there. Everybody on the home planet was killed, right? Other than Osha and May, but all the witches were killed. And then here we see all of the Jedi killed, and only Soul and May and Osha survived. We saw that Soul saved Osha from the master, right, killing her. And then we also saw Soul save May from the master killing her. And then the master himself, right, his alter ego Khmer. So it's like two people within one body. And speaking of the master with no name, those forearms really stole the show. So on that note, I'll leave you with this montage. All right, see you next time. Later.